You're listening to Wycombe Sound, online, on Radio Player, and on 106.6 FM.
Somebody said that it couldn't be done, but he with a chuckle replied that maybe it couldn't, but he would be one who wouldn't say so till he'd tried. So he buckled right in with the trace of a grin on his face. If he worried, he hid it. He started to sing as he tackled the thing that couldn't be done, and he did it. Somebody scoffed, "Oh, you'll never do that. At least no one ever has done it." But he took off his coat and he took off his hat, and the first thing we knew, he'd begun it. With a lift of his chin and a bit of a grin, without any doubting or quit it, he started to sing as he tackled the thing that couldn't be done, and he did it. There are thousands to tell you it cannot be done. There are thousands to prophesy failure. There are thousands to point out to you one by one the dangers that wait to assail you. But just buckle in with a bit of a grin. Just take off your coat and go to it. Just start in to sing as you tackle the thing that cannot be done, and you'll do it.
Wycombe Wanderers Show.
This week's Wycombe Wanderers Show dedicated to broadcaster and passionate Chairboy supporter Bill Turnbull, who's passed away at the age of 66 from prostate cancer. We'll be speaking in a few moments' time, hearing from current Wycombe Wanderers club commentator Phil Catchpole. Of course, Bill commentated on many Wycombe Wanderers games. We'll be getting Phil's memories and also the memories of and reflections of a number of other people connected with the club and supporters as well. Remembering Bill, we'll also get the thoughts of John Bignell, a member of the Wycombe Wanderers Ex-Players Association, who knew Bill, and we'll be catching up with him a little later on as well to find out some of the activities that the ex-players are getting involved with. On the pitch, we'll get Phil's thoughts on that draw with Charlton last Saturday, and of course the fantastic result in the EFL Trophy against Tottenham's under-21s. We'll also preview the Wycombe Wanderers Women's League season with centre-back Amy Leach as well in the next hour. It is, of course, transfer deadline day, and as the show is being broadcast, no ins or outs at the club. But if you're listening to the podcast version, that might be very different indeed. But of course, the main news today, of course, the loss of Bill Turnbull, a very passionate Wycombe Wanderers supporter. You'll recall many of his commentaries of many Wycombe Wanderers games, I'm sure. Have your own memories, perhaps of knowing Bill or meeting him at Adams Park or on away days, and hearing him speak so passionately about the club. A little earlier on today, I spoke with the head of audio and broadcast, of course, the host of Ringing the Blues, and as mentioned, current club commentator as well, of course, Phil Catchpole, with his own tributes.
Yeah, really gutted to hear the news. Everyone at the club, very, very sad, obviously, to hear the news, and, thoughts with his family and that now and today. But yeah, fortunate enough to share many a game in the press box, and, along with many other people, shared many a laugh, because that's what Bill was, really. He was a great bloke and a great laugh. We had some really good times. Not every game we did was a Wycombe win. There was always something to smile about during the game. But yeah, really great company. And I think that's why he was so popular with Wycombe fans, because when they listened to him, he was such a great broadcaster that he was company for them too.
And really nice, that you always seem to give time for people. Read some fantastic tributes already today, of course, and Dan Simpson saying that he contacted him at the BBC and he spent some time, obviously he replied to him straight away and spent some time just talking about Wycombe with him.
Yeah, well, I think, being a Wycombe fan was a way in with Bill, and he was always getting back to people, and, because of the love for the club and everyone involved with it. And, Bill just saw himself as another normal fan, and he was, and that's why the fans loved him, because when they listened to him, it was like one of them was on the commentary, because, he got so excited about the goals and so upset about some of the decisions. And, he was brilliant with it. And yeah, so much time for everybody. And one really, memory that's particularly poignant today was not long after he went public with his diagnosis with cancer, a couple of fans came up to the commentary point to have a chat with him. One in particular who had the same diagnosis as Bill. And he sat down and had a really long conversation, and it was quite moving to hear that. But then him along with Stephen Fry as well, had that campaign just to make sure that men went and got checked, and although, it was too late for him in terms of his incurable diagnosis, he wanted to use that and use his profile to help everybody else. And that kind of sums him up, really.
It's a fantastic legacy to have left, isn't it? To be known for someone who's raised awareness and hopefully helped so many men as well.
Yeah, well, I'm over 40 now, and I'm going to go and get checked because that's what they say, isn't it? And it does help when you've got people out there telling you to do so, not just sort of an NHS pamphlet or something that you can maybe not read or engage with, but real life stories is what affects people, and that's what Spills was, and yeah, what a great legacy, as you say.
And many fans will have their own recollections of Bill's unbiased commentary, and also hearing his voice, his lone voice, if you like, at Wembley on that playoff final too.
Yeah, I mean, that was phenomenal, wasn't it? Matt did a great job sneaking him in as a media assistant that day. And, I think there was 90 people in the entire stadium that night, I think including the staff and the players. But with the Wycombe bench and the few others, the Couhigs, Pete Couhig and Bill, it sounded like a couple of thousand. And yeah, I think a lot of the Wycombe fans have been sending in tweets to the club and messages, and a lot of them are referring to that game at Wembley because, just hearing it was like a sort of a metronome quality of his chants of Chairboy, just especially as the game was drawing to a close and he felt he needed to try to chip in and hold on to the lead for Wycombe. And he did, and the players have said, I think David Wheeler's tweeted today saying that, that they could all hear it on the pitch. But yeah, I'll never forget it when the full-time whistle went, because obviously it was weird COVID times, but he kind of ran up to the commentary point and gave me and Beanie a massive hug, and, the look on his face, he just couldn't believe it. I mean, none of us could, but, it meant the world to him, and it was fantastic he was there.
And that was playoff final 1, let's call it, but playoff final 2, of course, as well. His fantastic moving reading there.
Yeah, it was, we were thinking about what to do with the screen, and we had a bit of time that was allotted to the club, and it came to mind straight away for all of us sat here in the media team. We're like, well, Bill is the voice of the club. When it comes to the massive occasion, Bill's voice really only had the gravitas to deliver it, and brilliant it was too. And he was always so happy to help out, even during the pandemic and when he couldn't really travel or get out much. He had his home studio from Classic FM. He did a great episode of the podcast with me, which I've listened back to a bit this morning, and I have to admit I had a little cry when I listened to it. It was, because of what we spoke about, and his love for the club really came across. I remember just texting him and saying, Bill, can you read this out for us and record it? And, within the hour it was done and sounded great. He loved being involved, and he was, we all know for a fact that he was watching and listening to the games right up until the end. And, I think me and Matt would regularly get text messages during games about goals or refereeing decisions, and or after the final whistle with his thoughts on the match. And, he was a huge fan, and, we're going to miss him terribly, Colin. He's going to be a huge loss for the club and everyone connected to it.
No, definitely. And really brilliant to see him at Adams Park earlier in the year as well, and the reception that he got from the supporters and also from the manager, and also from Matt Bloomfield as well.
Yeah, Bloom's knew him really well. They're almost near neighbours, they live in the same part of the world. And, I saw Blooms earlier and, visibly upset by the news today, as you'd expect. But yeah, and Gareth as well. There'll be quotes coming from Gareth today. I'm sure Gareth will speak about this later today and put it into his own words as well. But yeah, it's, he meant everything to everyone at the club.
And I'm sure Bill will be so pleased with how the team are doing, and we'll focus a bit more onto the football, and a draw on Saturday at Charlton, which you felt like a decent result, but when you spoke to the manager afterwards, I think he was a bit disappointed, really. Yeah,
home game, and Wycombe had dominated in large parts of that first half and played some really good football, but just didn't have the cutting edge when they needed it. And then I think the second half Charlton kind of got to grips with Wycombe style. I think it took them a bit by surprise maybe in the first half. I think without Sam Vokes, Wycombe were playing a sort of a different style going into the final third. They got to grips with it in the second half, Charlton, and, you know, I think 1-1 was fair enough. I think the most disappointing thing for Wycombe, apart from not scoring enough whilst dominating, was conceding immediately after going in front, and that was the hard bit. But yeah, I think a lot of positives to take from it. I think Charlton are a good side as well. I think under Ben Garner, they're going to have a really good stab at it this year. We'll see in a couple of months where that result sits in the league. We'll get some real perspective on that. But yeah, decent performance. And let's just remember some big players to come back, you know, Tapazoli and Vokes. And I know all the fans would have done the mental picture of it, thinking, well, if those two players had been in for the first 4 or 5 games of the season, we'd have more points now. And I tend to agree with that viewpoint.
And it does feel like among supporters, doesn't it, that things are a lot more positive now. We've had these 2 games unbeaten in the league as well. Yeah,
you know, and these are against teams that I think will be up there. Like as I said with Charlton, Barnsley have just come down from the Championship and Wycombe blew them away. 3 wonderful goals, and they built on that with a draw against Charlton. I think Fleetwood's going to be a tricky one. It's always tough going up there. Even though we're going up at the tail end of summer, I'm braced for winter conditions. And yeah, tough place to go and play football. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, they've got a good platform now, Colin. And I think hopefully, you know, obviously, as we know, Gareth keeps his injury news close to his chest and we don't want to second guess it. But hopefully there's some bright news ahead in terms of returning players as well.
And really interesting on Tuesday night as well to get such a great glimpse of some exciting talent. Gareth mentioned that there were some, you know, sort of more experienced players who needed minutes as well. But the future looks really bright.
Yeah, it's Papa John's 2 points after beating the Spurs under 21 team, which was 2 more points we got last season in this competition. And I think it shows you the distance that this development squad has covered, because they dominated large parts of the game against that Spurs under 21s as well. And if you also, we should refer to the League Cup games against Northampton and Bristol City, and the younger players, I think, really played their part and showed the potential and why people are excited about a lot of these players. It's moving in the right direction. And yeah, I think it's exciting times, and it's good to see them involved in the first team match day squad in League One when they're needed. And yeah, hopefully we can keep developing them, because, you know, somewhere in there is the next Anis Fumetti, the next Chris Farino, and that's going to be great news for the fans in this club.
And you can't overestimate what Gareth has at his disposal compared to, you know, what he had such a comparatively short time ago.
Yeah, I mean, this is what people keep saying. Oh, you know, Gareth's been here for 10 years and it's almost like it's a different club now. So, yes, it's the same club. It's the same badge, the same name, obviously. But in terms of everything else at his disposal, it's incredibly different. And, you know, largely due to the great work that he's led here at Wycombe Wanderers. I think it's great that he can now benefit from that. It's a different style of management he's got now. Whereas before it was like, right, who's fit? Right, you're all playing, you're on the bench. Whereas now he's got some decisions to make, and, you know, but good decisions to make. It's a real positive thing to have. You know, not easy calls, some of these, but, you know, it's a great problem for any manager to have. And it's great to see Gareth evolving as a manager now, tactically and everything strategically. Now he's got more at his disposal.
And as you touched on it, a real tough test coming up on Saturday for Fleetwood, a team who, you know, have had a similar start to Wycombe and part of quite a sizable group of teams who are all on 7 points.
Yeah, well, they love a draw, don't they? I think it's lost 1, won 1, drawn 4. And their first-time manager, Stephen Brown, up in the old Scottish captain, has come down. You know, very combative midfielder, wasn't he? And I think he steadied the ship there, and they were very lucky to stay up last season, if I'm being brutally honest. Horrendous form the second part of the season. I think they won just once after mid-January. Stayed up on the final day despite losing that game. They've had a lot of ins and outs. I think 12 have gone and 13 have come in. New manager, and he's made it more solid. We're speaking on transfer deadline day. I know they're thinking about trying to get a striker in. But yeah, they're certainly very hard to beat, as the run of form suggests. So this one won't be easy, Colin.
Really appreciate your time. Look forward to hearing the commentary on Saturday, and good luck with the weather conditions.
Yeah, I'm definitely packing my coat for this one.
Phil will be bringing us live commentary here at Wycombe Sound. Build up from 2 on Saturday afternoon, full match live from 3, of course. Make sure you don't miss that. Wycombe Wanderers players will be wearing black armbands up at Fleetwood as a tribute, of course, to Bill Turnbull. And then the next home match against Port Vale on the 10th will be dedicated to celebrating the life of Bill Turnbull, who's meant so much to so many. Plenty of tributes on social media today. Chairman Rob Cooig wrote, a wonderful person and true friend of Wycombe Wanderers. It was a privilege to hear him share his love for his club. The class that he demonstrated during his struggle was inspirational. May his memory be a blessing to his family and friends. Rest in peace forever, a Chairboy. The captain, Joe Jacobson, wrote, so sad to hear the news about Bill Turnbull. Always had time for me at Adams Park. He loved Wycombe Wanderers incredibly, and to hear about his story and how well he's been dealing with his illness, and he shared with us all such a nice man to be around, and also thoughts go out to his family. The Wycombe Wanderers Sports and Education Trust, everyone at WWSET is deeply saddened to hear of the passing of Bill Turnbull. They wrote, all of our thoughts are with his family and friends at this difficult time. Wycombe Wanderers Women, everyone at Wycombe Wanderers Women are devastated to hear the news of the sad death of Wycombe legend Bill Turnbull. Their thoughts are with all who knew and loved him. Paul Hayes, former skipper, of course, such sad news. Bill was a caring gentleman. Everything that I got to meet him, R.I.P. Phil's tribute as well on Twitter. We heard from him just a moment ago, of course. Bill called many Chairboys goals, questioned one or two refereeing decisions, and had countless laughs along the way. He was a tremendous fun, and we're all going to miss him terribly. Matt, of course, who's the head of media at the club, wrote a personal message on Twitter. Bill, I was in awe of you when I started commentating alongside you all those years ago. It was such a privilege to get to know you. You lit up Adams Park every time you visited. I promise to give referees a hard time in your memory. Rest in peace, Bill. David Stockdale, R.I.P. Bill, a wonderful gentleman that came to share his story with us. A sad day. And a nice tribute from former Wycombe Sound presenter Aaron Paul. Kind, funny and super sharp. Bill was huge for me as I entered my broadcasting career with Wycombe Sound and Hospital Radio. A joy to be with at Adams Park in the press room. He was also on hand for a chat and a bit of advice. Wycombe Wanderers has lost a legend. And also Sergio Torres as well wrote, what terrible news. Had the pleasure to meet Bill a few times, and what a nice and very helpful guy he was. Rest in peace.
Online, on Radio Player and on 106.6 FM. This is Wycombe Sound.
This week's Wycombe Wanderers Show dedicated to Bill Turnbull, who has sadly died at the age of 66 from prostate cancer. Normally, around this time, we bring you a former Wycombe Wanderers player as courtesy of the Wycombe Wanderers Ex-Players Association. I'm a bit excited to let you know that on next week's show, we'll be chatting to legendary winger Steve Guppy, who you might know is currently in Nashville. They're 6 hours behind. I've also learned that comparatively recently as well. So that's to come next week. Big thank you to the Wycombe Wanderers Ex-Players Association for helping to arrange that. This week we hear from member John Bignell, who've been speaking to a bit about the activities of the Wycombe Wanderers Ex-Players Association, because they've been quite busy in the last few weeks. Also, you may well know as well, quite instrumental in sort of getting things ready at Adams Park, along with the other volunteers as well of the trust. So lots to chat to John about, but starting with, of course, his reaction to the sad news, of course, that, as mentioned, Bill Turnbull has died.
Yeah, very sad news this morning, yes. I mean, I knew Bill. I think he'd been to some ex-players events in the past, and obviously hugely connected with the club over the years. Saw him recently, I saw him at Wembley, and he's a terrific battle. I mean, he's fought really, and but very sad to lose him, and a great loss. A really nice chap, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure something echoed by many supporters who will certainly recognise him from his commentaries of the club as well.
Absolutely, yeah. He was an integral part of the club for many, many years.
Yeah, much missed. And obviously we've got you on to chat about the Ex-Players Association, which seems to be really kind of coming to life now.
Well, it's certainly been a busy few weeks. I guess we're a bit like all football things, really. We, the start of the season seems to bring a sort of a sudden rush of things, although we have had our sort of annual bowls tournaments and golf day during the summer. But since the start of the season, I mean, I guess we've been renewing the panels in Monty's, which if people haven't been into Monty's bar, it's a bit like the sort of museum of the club, really, with lots of information and memorabilia in there of the history of the club, and we've just been upgrading some of those basically to reflect the recent history of the club, various Wembley visits in the last few years, and also various other things. We've just updated and a bit about the women's team, and so yes, that's been a busy time, and we wanted to get that ready for the start of the season. So that's been busy. And other things, last week was quite a busy week. We arranged for Len Worley, a real legend. I don't think there's many people involved with Wycombe Wanderers that hadn't heard of Len Worley, although he's now 85 years young. We arranged for him to go up to the training ground, and he met Gareth Ainsworth and some of the other players up there and watched a bit of training, and then Wycombe Wanderers TV did an interview with him, which if anybody hasn't seen it yet, is well worth having a look at. And Len talks about his very, very interesting football career, 15 years with the Wanderers, some great stuff on there. And then Len again, because Charlton was one of his former clubs, one of the clubs he had a few games for. He played for a couple of teams, which most people probably know, but for those that don't, he played for Charlton and Spurs as an amateur whilst he was still at Wycombe in the First Division, but came back to play for Wycombe after each time, and he had a very fond memories of playing for Charlton. So he was at the Charlton game on Saturday with his 10-year-old granddaughter, who was watching her first ever football match, and the club arranged for them to lead the teams out, which was a really nice touch.
And really nice for the fans to see Len after recovering from his own health scare too.
Indeed, yeah, he had a heart attack back in the autumn last year, and pleased to report that he's back playing golf again and tennis twice a week. So yes, he's made a pretty full recovery, which is great stuff. Great news, really.
And when he was at the training ground, he had his boots with him, I noticed.
He did. It was funny, Colin. He got out of the car with these boots hung round his neck, and he said, "I wonder if I might get a game." But yes, and I think his boots caused quite a stir when he was with some of the players. And there was one lovely cameo moment when the staff was showing him the sort of GPS monitors that the players wear these days and how they video the games for various things. And the ball sort of seemed to come from nowhere, which over Len's shoulder, which he trapped immediately and then flicked up in the air and did about 3 or 4 keepy uppies before kicking it back, which was wonderful. Oh,
that's a fantastic story. And another club legend, Tony Horseman, you've been working with as well of late.
Well, I have. Yeah, that's quite an interesting story. Back in the spring, a guy called Baz Flam, who comes from Norway, came to an evening game at Wycombe, and he's produced this fantastic leather-bound autograph book, which includes every league club in the country, plus some National League teams. And he's a calligrapher, so he's written the names of the sort of the star players from all the clubs and done a hand-drawn club badge. And he goes round the country basically getting autographs signed. It's a giant autograph book. And he'd come to Wycombe for this game and came along and saw 1 or 2 ex-Wycombe players and got them to sign. He also came back again for Bayo's sort of last big match when we celebrated his career with Wycombe for the Doncaster game. Got some more signatures then. And we sort of kept in touch. And I had a message from him a few weeks ago saying he was being in London again for a few days. And would it be possible for him to meet the Bodger? Which I thought was great. He didn't say Tony Horseman, the Bodger. So I got in touch with Tony and arranged that he would sign Baz's book. So I picked Baz up from the station and took him to Tony's house, and Tony duly signed this autograph book. But Baz presented Tony with a lovely framed photograph of himself with, again, the club crest done by hand and details of Tony's career around it, which was a really lovely touch. And later on that day, because he crams a lot of stuff in, this guy Baz, he went to see Watford play Burnley in the evening, and there met Luther Blissett, and they are apparently the only 2 players that are the leading appearance makers and leading goal scorers in their clubs in the country.
Wow.
Which was, so it was quite a double for him that day. But that was really nice, a nice guy, and I think Tony really appreciated the attention, really.
I understand fans can get a limited edition copy of Baz's book too.
They can, yes. I think the details are on the club website and probably on the ex-players' Facebook page. Yes, it's a printed version. beautifully done. And if you're an autograph hunter and you like travelling around the country, I mean, a fantastic thing to have, really. Yeah, absolutely.
And great for bands to be able to meet the Bodger as well.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful, really, that Tony's still remembered, and of course that name, which is great. We keep the Bodger name going because it's synonymous with the Chairboys, really.
And really nice for youngsters as well, I think, who might see the mascot Bodger on a match day and not really perhaps know the story behind that.
Indeed, yeah. I mean, talking of mascots, on the day of Akinfenwa's, the day we celebrated his career, actually Bodger presented Akinfenwa with something out on the pitch there before the game, and while we were waiting for Leo to come out, the mascots all had their photographs taken with the real Bodger for once, which was very nice.
No, definitely. And really pleasing for the Ex-Players Association as well to have your activities up and running again after the last couple of years that we've had. Well,
indeed, yeah. I mean, we're having our dinner is on the 18th of November, so that's coming up in the not-too-distant future, and that will be the first one since 2019. So JDT's working very hard on that at the moment. I'm sure there'll be a few surprises, but a great presentation, as always. So, yeah, we've managed to do all of our activities this year. The quiz went ahead in back in the springtime, and then, as I say earlier, we've had the bowls and the golf. And another thing that I'm trying to resurrect at the moment is back in the day, actually before the Ex-Players Association, a former Wycombe player called Derek Draffan used to organise a golf day for his former teammates, and that went on for many years, and then these are guys that played in the 50s, so golf was becoming a bit much for them, so they used to have a lunch every year. Derek Draffan sadly passed away a couple of years ago, and with COVID and everything else, that lunch had sort of stopped, but I'm just reorganising one for those players that played in the 50s for next month, but because we've lost quite a few of the original guys, we're going to have to bring some youngsters in that played in the 60s to make up the numbers. But I'm sure it'll be a lovely, lovely occasion.
No, it sounds like it'll be a great event, and really nice for supporters to get to hear about what the ex-players are doing as well.
Well, yeah, it's there's always something going on behind the scenes, and it keeps us out of mischief. Another thing that would happen this week or last week, actually, for the Bristol City game, was that Bristol City are just starting an Ex-Players Association. I think it's been going for a few months now, and they contacted us asked if they could meet before the Carabao Cup game last week, just to find out how we do things, and what's good, what things to do, what things not to do, and how it really works. So that was quite nice. So we're getting a relationship with other clubs as well, and it's nice to know that ex-players are a part of the present day in football clubs, really.
And virtually, I think all, to be honest, ex-players that we speak to on this show say obviously how special the club is, and that's something that can really be highlighted by the Ex-Players Association as well.
Well, I think so. I mean, I think if you played football with somebody, it's friendships that last forever, basically. In fact, after I talking to you now, I should be talking to my old pal Viv Busby, who played for Wycombe in the 60s, and he lives in Spain now, but, we're lifelong friends, and we keep in touch. So, yes, there is something about being part of an ex-players association, and it's a special bond, really.
No, and great, obviously, for different generations of former players to be able to share their stories as well.
Well, I think that's the good thing about it, Colin. When they do come together, it doesn't matter whether they played 50 years ago or 20 years ago. They're all playing for the same team, and what I like to see is that the players do mix. They do talk to each other, and it's really nice. I mean, one of the things we do on match days as ex-players is we take some of the present squad round to the hospitality boxes and introduce them to people. And we've just started doing that again this season since the COVID regulations have eased. So that's a nice thing. But I took Charles Hagan, who's a news player from Sheffield Wednesday last week, and I took him in to meet some of the ex-players as part of that, and it was just lovely to see the interaction between, a present-day young player and players that have played, many years ago. They've still got this same enthusiasm, people looking back, people looking forward, and it's a great mix.
And how can people find out more about what the Ex-Players Association does?
Well, we've now got a page. If they go onto the club website, there is a link on there to the Ex-Players Association, so you can see all the articles that actually appear on the club website, and now in that special section they go into there. And also there's the Ex-Players Facebook page, which is updated pretty much daily.
Oh, it's been a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you very much indeed for your time. Was there anything else that you wanted to add as well?
Not really, Colin. Nice to talk to you as ever. And all I would like to say is that I just think we're honoured to be part of a great football club. Wycombe is a community club. One thing we didn't mention actually was the visit last week from the Star and Garter home in Wycombe to the club, where we presented a honorary membership to a chap called Johnny Brooks, who's now the oldest living Wycombe player. I think he's 95 later this year. We only found out about him very recently, but the club arranged for people from the Star and Garter to go and have a tour of the ground and entertain them. And as a group of us ex-players, members went down and talked to Johnny. Alan Hutchinson, our chairman, presented him with a tie. And again, it just proves what a real community club we've got.
John Bignell from the Wycombe Wanderers Ex-Players Association talking to us here at Wycombe Sound, rounding up their latest activities. Some other former player news that you might not have caught. Darius Charles has taken up a new job at Manchester City. The 34-year-old, who spent 3 seasons with the Chairboys between 2018 and 2021, will work at the reigning Premier League champions as a senior house parent, looking after and mentoring some of the world's most talented young players. We wish him luck with his role. And you may have heard as well, former Wanderers captain Adam El Abd has retired from football. That's a fortnight just before his 38th birthday. And of course, he made plenty of appearances for the club as well. And we wish him all the best in his retirement. Don't forget, as mentioned, we'll be featuring more from the actually 528 appearances for 8 league clubs. So a fantastic career for him, and we wish him all the best. So big thank you to Wycombe Wanderers Ex-Players Association for their contribution to the show, and very much looking forward to chatting to Steve Guppy next week. Hope you can join us for that.
Online, on Radio Player, and on 106.6 FM. This is Wycombe Sound.
A special Wycombe Wanderers show this week dedicated to Bill Turnbull, who it's been announced today that he's died at the age of 66 from prostate cancer. If you've just tuned in, the club has announced that the game up at Fleetwood on Saturday, the players will be wearing black armbands, and the next home fixture, which will be of course against Port Vale on the 10th of September, will be dedicated to celebrating the life of such a wonderful man. And we'll be telling you before the end of the show some words from Gareth Ainsworth, who's given his tribute as part of the club's pre-match drills, which you can get on Wanderers TV. As I say, that's on the way between now and the end of the show. But first, also this week, this coming Sunday sees the start of the new season for Wycombe Wanderers Women. They take on Winchester City Flyers away in their first league game. There have been a number of changes. We've spoken to the new head coach, Carl Simon, of course, and had Cara Hawes on as well, who's the vice captain of the team as well. They've, of course, got a new ground up at Burnham, where they train and also play their home fixtures now, after in previous seasons being up at Dawes Hill Lane at the college campus. And we've been catching up with centre-back Amy Leach, who obviously is very excited at the start of the new season, has been celebrating the great achievements of the England team at the Women's Euros. But first, gives us a bit of background to her own football journey.
Originally, I followed my brother's footsteps, and when he started playing football, when he played for Oxford United, and, you know, being the younger sister, I've been dragged along to the game. So ever since I was a young girl, I've always been involved in a lot of sport and football, and like when he would go away with football, I was always there. So during this time, I was always playing with the team's younger brothers. So originally, that's how it started for me. I was playing, like, I used to go to summer camps with all boys. There was never really many girls at the time, so my brother used to go to summer camp, my mum would put me in too. So ever since a young age, I've been kicking a football, to be honest. But I started a team when I was 10 years old, just for my local Didcot team. They just started up a Didcot girls team, casuals. And yeah, it went from there really. And then I went to play further. I went to Reading for a little while. I played for Oxford City. Then I went to Abingdon. And then I was spotted for Wycombe. So then, yeah, I went to trial at Wycombe, and ever since I've been there, it's been great.
And have you noticed the real rise in popularity in women's football generally?
Oh, yeah, massively, especially after the Women's Euros. The participation rates have grown massively. You know, the women's football continues to change beyond recognition now. However, the game continues to rise and remains the fastest growing sport in the world. And being part of a football team, especially girls, it gives us a great, strong sense of self-esteem, you know. It makes us feel less self-conscious, but most importantly, empowers us with the confidence to reach our goals, especially now after the women have done such a great job and won the Euros. I think it just gives us, more confidence to reach goals and aim high.
I think as well something else which really stands out is people's perception of women's football, as you say, especially since the Euros and before that the World Cup even, that, you know, people I guess kind of sneered at women's football in a way, just thinking, oh, you know, girls aren't as good as footballers as the men, but it really shows that, you know, there's a great standard of football there. Yeah,
definitely, especially like you say, after the women have just been honestly astonishing how they've played, and just, how women's football's growing. We're like, every day, you know, becoming stronger physically, mentally in the game. As you said, how it was sort of frowned upon, women playing football, but obviously we've shown now women can do it. And like I said, it's given every other women and girls younger just the belief and the motivation now that women can do it. It's not just men.
I think we should speak a bit about your position as well, because I remember when I was at school, there weren't too many people that wanted to be defenders. Is that something that you've always done? Or
Yeah, so in primary school, actually, funnily enough, I used to be a striker when I was really young, when the girls used to play. But no, ever since I've started football, I think I'm just built quite strong, and I've always been fast and strong. So the best position for me was to be a centre-back. And playing alongside the defence in Wycombe and becoming a centre-back is great. I couldn't see myself playing in any other position now.
And as you say, you've been at Wycombe sort of a comparatively short amount of time. How would you assess how it's gone so far?
When I first started, it was great. We had a great manager, great coach. And last season, well, at least to say it wasn't the best for us. But we've had a new manager come in recently, and everything's changed. The professionalism, the perspective on just Wycombe women in general. We've gained so much more help from the club, and I think Carl's done a great job in pushing that.
So how's the transition been for you and the rest of the team as well? Because you had, you know, changes in personnel and real structure in the club as well.
Yeah, of course. So since Carl and the rest of the coaching team has come into the club, they've made a massive change on and off the pitch. Like I said, the professionalism it's brought has been amazing. I feel like it's been the missing piece. We've needed to establish credibility and able to promote a feeling of more trustworthiness, I suppose. He's improved all of the players and helped us produce positive results on the field, but also brought us all together off the pitch as well. It's lovely because we're now like a family and we all support each other.
I understand there's been an increase in number of training sessions as well.
Yeah, that's also changed. We train twice a week now. Fitness has been a massive thing. We've got our fitness coach. God, yeah, it's been non-stop. It's been hard work, but it's been great because we've seen results. Like, we've had a lot of pre-season friendlies, and as the weeks go on, you can just see the massive change in the team with fitness and everything. It's been great.
And a change in venue, of course, for your home games from this season and training base as well.
Yeah, Burnham. Wow, that's been amazing. It's just crazy how bringing such professionalism and changing like a ground, sometimes I turn up to train and I'm like, wow, what we've got here is amazing, and it just pushes you to work even harder. The ground's great, the stadium's amazing, everything about it's been great. To be honest, we're very lucky.
And a new leadership structure as well within the team, which you must be very proud to be part of.
Yeah, the leadership group. I was very honoured to be asked to be a part of the leadership group. I feel like I have a lot of respect from the team and management, which means so much to me. I feel like I can communicate effectively with the team, but most importantly, I'm approachable for the girls. So if they need to come to me for anything, on or off the pitch, that brings great comfort.
And it feels like there's a real mixture in the team as well, both, you know, players that have been there a while or, you know, younger or older members of the team as well.
Yeah, it does. So there's our team, we have a reserves and under-18s team as well. It's great to see the reserves team, they train with us and, you know, brought up to some games, and it's great to see the younger girls coming up and improving immensely. And yeah, just being involved, like our team's very welcoming, so when the reserves come up and play with us on a Sunday or to our training, it's great because we welcome them. We're like a very close team, so we're all like a family. So regardless if you're new or if you've been in the club 10 years, I feel like everyone has the same effect on the team.
So how would you say your preparations for the new season have gone?
Yeah, amazing. I can't wait for the league to start on Sunday and show all the other teams what we're made of and what we've built as a team in pre-season. I don't think they're ready. Compared to last season, we have changed immensely. I feel like, yeah, from what we was last season to now, we've come along heaps and bounds. It's like a fresh start, you know, like a new leaf. The management has changed. It's just been crazy. It's hard to put into words, really. Like from last season, our manager was great, but it's just, you know, the breath of fresh air that we need. Honestly, it's changed, and the impact on the team it's had is crazy.
So what sort of challenge are you expecting from Winchester?
Do you know, we always go into a game with the same expectations of it's going to be tough, it's going to be a hard game. We've got to stick in, you know, work together, not work individually, work as a team. And then once our mindset's in there, that's it, nothing can change it. We're ready to go now.
And you must be really looking forward to your first home game as well. Obviously, you're a new base.
Yeah, I'm very excited for our new home game. We've had a lot more, even for our friendlies. The numbers have increased, you know, people watching and coming along to support us. So hopefully once the season starts and we've got some games under our belt at home, we'll get a lot more people coming to watch us.
Really nice, I think, for people to be able to follow, you know, your progress. And as you say, after the Euros and, you know, with the men's team as well, kind of a real additional thing to perhaps come along and support your games on a Sunday too.
Yeah, of course. A lot of our supporters are from the men's team as well, which is even, that's amazing, you know, to know people supporting the men, but now they're coming and supporting the women too. It's great. It gives us that extra push and motivation to do them proud as well.
So have you got your own kind of aims for the season, both for yourself and also for the team as well?
Yeah, I mean, obviously everyone's got the same aim of winning the league, but even like for us to improve, because I can feel how the structure of the team and the club, it's just been amazing. So, you know, to get the points under our belt, keep clean sheets, especially for us at the back, and just have a great time, to be honest. We enjoy it, so just keep showing that on the pitch and with the scores, I suppose, like try and get as many goals as we can, as many clean sheets, then build our way up in the table.
And it'd be really nice, I think, as well, for the team to be able to use the Women's Euros achievements as a real motivator. I was reading Katie did a great piece on the website saying, you know, the achievement will make her kind of like train harder and work harder in games as well.
Yeah, of course. Like I said before, it's just the sense of self-esteem, and it makes us, you know, want to reach higher, motivated more. Like you say, it wants to make you work harder because, you know, the girls done us proud. And I feel like we should make, you know, our manager proud for all the work he's put in, our supporters. And yeah, just the confidence to reach our goals and to aim high, to try and win the league.
And we should mention as well your final pre-season game, which was the ideal preparation, really, a great win and a great goal for yourself as well.
Yeah, yeah, it was a great game, especially from conceding quite early and it being 1-0 and coming back to winning 4-1. It was great. That feeling's amazing. You know, we didn't give up. We stuck in. We dug in for each other. And yeah, it was great, and especially getting that goal. I was so happy.
Really nice to speak to Amy Leach, who's a new member of the leadership team with Wycombe Wanderers Women, centre-back, you know, and we wish her and the rest of the team all the best for their upcoming league debut match on Sunday, which is away to Winchester City Flyers. Of course, there are the reserves and under-18s as well. We'll be following Wycombe Wanderers Women on the Wycombe Wanderers Show throughout their season, regularly chatting to Carl Simon, their manager. Next week, we'll be chatting to Emily from the club to find out a bit more about behind the scenes and what goes into putting the team together, type thing. Also, of course, this week we're dedicating the show to Bill Turnbull, who has died from prostate cancer at the age of 66. Manager Gareth Ainsworth has said that they're really going to miss him. Those who didn't know him missed out. What a guy, Gareth said. Those who did, what can you say about him? A fantastic guy, Wycombe through and through. He was properly invested in the club. Gareth said he was happy to hear he was one of the lucky few who got to the Oxford game at Wembley. R.I.P. Bill. Thoughts and prayers with his family, and hope we can keep the Wycombe train running the way he would want. You can hear more from Gareth, of course, on Wanderers TV in the pre-match drills feature, which is available now. Producer Luke is with us, producer of the show, and you've met Bill, yourself as well.
Yeah, as Aaron, you said earlier on with his tribute, Bill was always there in the press box when we were there in the early days of Wycombe Sound and Wycombe Hospital Radio, and he would always have time for everybody that was there. If you were BBC, Sky, anything like that, Hospital Radio, if you were a fan of Wycombe, he would stop and talk and just have a chat. And he was always there to giving advice as well if you asked him some questions or something. So he was so lovely, and as Gareth said, just so invested in the club, and you could tell.
And also in his commentaries as well, he was a big fan of pointing out where the referees had perhaps not quite reached the right decision, and also as has been mentioned in a number of tributes, very sort of unbiased in his coverage as well. Yeah, and there's been some clips that Phil have shared today on his social media and the club as well of him with sort of some interesting stories as well, including a time that a swan got stuck on the motorway. That was after a partridge got stuck in the goal net, I believe, at Adams Park, and they had to rescue that, and that was a good story. But also, as you said, his thoughts on some of the referee decisions throughout the games as well, which Matt and Phil said they'll keep going in his legacy. But he just brought something to the commentaries that you don't get elsewhere, and Phil's the same as well. It's you get that bit of humour, that bit of light into the commentary, and you feel like you're hanging out with a friend while watching the football, no matter where you are, if you're in the UK, if you're in Wycombe, or as we've seen over the last few seasons across the world. He obviously loved the club, was a real fan of the Chairboys, and as you say, that really came across in the commentary. I recall myself a few years ago, I was lucky enough to host for a while the Q&A sessions post-match in what was then, of course, the Veer Suite, and got to chat to Bill just on one occasion, but it was so noticeable how he made time for myself and any other fans who wanted to sort of come up to him and chat to him about the club as well, and spoke passionately about the players and who his favourite players were and who put in the best performances and where they needed to improve at the time, and also was a big fan of his bees, of course, and could chat endlessly about that as well. Yeah, very, very true. And I think even though when he left the BBC, they had the big programme at the end, which they did from Wycombe. He sort of has always taken Wycombe with him and made sure that he could get to games when he could. Obviously, the last time he was at the ground was in April, I think, last season. And Gareth and Matt Bloomfield, as we heard earlier on, went up and to see him. And he always made time for the club and always shared his comments on social media, or as we've heard today with Matt and Gareth and Phil as well. And such a fantastic ambassador as well for prostate cancer. He did that documentary, of course, on the TV, which was fascinating to see sort of his journey and obviously how difficult it was for him and his family. But he was so keen to sort of raise awareness with other people and get men to be checked, of course, as well, and to hopefully sort of not come along the same sort of diagnosis that he'd had. Yeah, I think it's one of the huge legacies that he'll leave is when he first said what he was going through and the treatment he was going through, the amount of people that signed up to have a test sort of skyrocketed after that documentary and after the initial announcement. But also today, when the news broke that he'd passed away, the forums and people on Twitter were all saying, because of this news, I've signed up. I'm going to have a test. And I know you spoke to that with Phil earlier on, and we've spoken about it with Alan Cecil throughout the earlier season, that's what he left with them. People were going to have tests and are going to as well today. And such a great ambassador for the club. He obviously understood, what the club was about and its history, and as you say, sort of living locally for so long. I think it was sort of Jordan's that they lived, and more recently, obviously, moved to the east. But fantastic that to have someone like that who was so passionate about the club and so eager to chat to literally anybody about what was going on at Adams Park. Yeah, Gareth says in the pre-match drills actually on Wanderers TV that he didn't realise how much Bill loved the club until he came to the club, and that Bill was slightly embarrassed that he wasn't a Wycombe lad, but loved Wycombe so much because he'd picked up through doing radio and broadcast and stuff like that. And yeah, a lot of fans sharing today that if they saw him in the street, if they not even in Wycombe, if they just saw him out on while on holiday, that if they went over to him and said, I've seen you at Adams Park, or thank you for that commentary, it really meant something, that he would spend that time because he loved the club. And I think, as Gareth said, we've lost a Wycombe Wanderers legend today. And really nice as well that when he stepped away from Breakfast TV, his final show on the red sofa was at Adams Park as well, because I think that's a really nice gesture, and I'm sure tomorrow there'll be much more coverage of that on TV as well. Yeah, tomorrow morning there's going to be a few interviews. I think 6:30, 7:30 and 8:30. Check on Wycombe Wanderers social media, they put it up this evening, with Gareth, Matt Bloomfield, Andrew Howard, Travis Stroud, and talking about
talking about Bill tomorrow morning. So I'm sure there'll be lots of memories there, and I'm sure as we look to the Port Vale game, there'll be lots going on around then.
So much that the club meant to Bill, but also it's so clear how much Bill meant to the club as well. Just some of the messages, as you say, that you've seen today and that have been on the Wycombe Wanderers website as well.
Yeah, and there's a video of Bill introducing Wycombe Wanderers after they came up. I think it was to League One, I think, and the response that he got from the crowd when he was, talking to them, saying, this is your club, and the reaction he got from the crowd. He loved the club, but the club loved him as well, and that went for the staff, the players, and the Wycombe Wanderers fans as well. And I think we've seen that today with the amount of tributes that have come through.
And I think many fans will have their own sort of recollections of, as you say, commentary moments that they'll remember from various games, or perhaps even when there's nothing going on, or as we said, some of the refereeing decisions as well.
Yeah, definitely. And there's been a few montages of Bill's best bits during the commentary, and I'm sure there'll be lots more over the next few weeks as people share them. And I think a lot of people hoping that some of those commentaries that Bill did will end up on Wanderers TV, so they can live on into the history of the club, because he was a big part of the club. Matt Cecil saying that Bill was the reason that he fell in love with broadcasting the games and commentating with them, because he had that energy behind the club, because he wasn't just commentating on any old club, it was his club, the club that he loved, and you had that energy behind him, talking about the clubs. When there was a goal, as we said, he didn't agree with what the ref, his decisions, you got that passion coming through.
And so invested in the club and what they were doing. I remember hearing many interviews with him, obviously following events, everyone remembers down at Torquay, and when the club almost going out of business and the Couigs taking over, and he was so keen on that as well, and what the future holds for the club too. Yeah, I mean, we just look at Rob's tribute today. Rob's only been with the club 3 years now, and the impact that he's had on Rob and Pete. I remember during lockdown they did the Chairboys live shows, and Bill appeared on a few of them, along with Pete as well, and the stories that that had come out, and the way that Pete and Bill were reacting and sharing stuff. It was like they'd been friends forever. And I think that is, when we talk about Wycombe Wanderers, we say how much of a community it is, and even if you've been part of the club for 50 years, 30 years, or even like 10 minutes, you feel like you're part of that community and part of the family. That is something that's come across. I mean, we've featured on the show before, other, supporters even who've, sadly passed away, and the tributes and what it means to the manager and other staff as well. Yeah, and just look at the Wembley game when, we had that moment to celebrate those that couldn't be there at the game. Talking to Matt before the game, it is one big family at Wycombe Wanderers. And yeah, we've missed a key member of the family today. And as you say, really nice that the club will be paying tribute at that game at Port Vale on the 10th of September, and of course Fleetwood this coming Saturday. The players will be wearing black armbands as well. Yeah, and I'm sure we'll talk more about it with Phil this Saturday from 2 o'clock when we talk to him, and then of course be part of those celebrations on Saturday when we're live there from 12 with Rob, and sharing people's memories. If you've got a memory, come up to us on that game on the Saturday and tell us about it. Really nice, actually, to have a big crowd at Adams Park on the 10th as well, for people to celebrate the life of Bill Turnbull. Yeah, come down, celebrate, and enjoy the game as well. But yeah, celebrate the life of Bill. It's a really great opportunity. You can find out more on the Wycombe Wanderers website. Check out Wanderers TV as well, as we mentioned a little earlier on, for that pre-match drills interview with Gareth, and you can see more from the manager and lots more as well. Former chairman Andrew Howard, of course, on TV tomorrow as well, and lots of other coverage on the club's social media as well. Thank you very much. Brilliant to dedicate this show to Bill this week as well. A special man, a special part of the club, and as I say, I'm sure many have your memories, whether it's his commentary of games, or indeed, of course, his appearance, the lone appearance, as we mentioned, at the playoff final against Oxford, or perhaps indeed those words before the game against Sunderland.
One song can spark a moment. One flower can wake the dream. One tree can start a forest. One bird can herald spring. One smile begins a friendship. One hand clasp lifts a soul. One star can guide a ship at sea. One word can frame the goal. One vote can change a nation. One sunbeam lights a room. One candle wipes out darkness. One laugh will conquer gloom. One step must start each journey. One word must start each prayer. One hope will raise our spirits. One touch can show you care. One voice can speak with wisdom. One heart can know what's true. One life can make a difference. You see, it's up to you.